Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana vraja-nātha Yashoda Nandana vraja-nātha Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana vraja-nātha Yashoda Nandana vraja-nātha Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajacharya Stotra Satarshi Shrimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Good morning. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 26th chapter, beginning with text 14 up to text 16. We'll read call and response for the first text, text 14, then I'll read through the other texts. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Ladies. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva sapta-hāyano bālaḥ. Kva mahādri-vidhāraṇam. Tato no jāyate śaṅkā. vraja-nātha tavātmaje. Kva, where in comparison? Sapta-hāyanaḥ, 7 years old. Bālaḥ, this boy. Kva, where? Mahā-adri, of the great mountain. Vidhāraṇam, the lifting. Tataḥ, thus. Naḥ, for us. Jāyate, arises. śaṅkā, doubt. Vraja-nātha, O Master of Vraja. Tava, your. ātmaje, concerning the sun. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, translation by disciples of Srila Prabhupada. On the one hand, this boy is only 7 years old. And on the other, we see that he has lifted the great hill Govardhana. Therefore, O King of Vraja, a doubt about your son arises within us. Please repeat. On the one hand, this boy is only 7 years old. And on the other, we see that he has lifted the great hill Govardhana. Therefore, O King of Vraja, a doubt about your son arises in our mind. Within us. Text 15. Śrī-nanda uvāca. Okay, we can do that. Śrīyatameva chogopa. Vietu śaṅkā chavorpake. Enam kumaram uddishya. Gargo me yad uvāca. Nanda Maharaj replied, O cowherd men, just hear my words and let all your doubts concerning my son be gone. Some time ago, Garga Muni spoke to me as follows about this boy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, or by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Sridhar Swami comments, the words previously heard from Gargacharya awakened Nanda Maharaj to the truth about Krishna, and thus by Nanda's constantly remembering his activities, all thoughts about their being impossible ceased in him. Now he is instructing the cowherd men with these same words. Text 16. Varnastraya kilasyasan grinato nuyugam tanahu Shuklo raktastatapita Idanim Krishnatam gataha. Garga Muni had said, your son Krishna appears as an incarnation in every millennium. In the past, he assumed 3 different colors, red, white, and yellow. And now he has appeared in a blackish color. Purport. This and the next 6 verses, 17 through 22, are taken from the 8th chapter of this canto, in which Garga Muni instructs Nanda Maharaj about Nanda's son, Krishna. The translations found herein for these verses are based on those of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In chapter 8, where the verses originally appear, the reader will find extensive purports by Srila Prabhupada. Now we'll visit one of those purports. The verses continue as indicated in this commentary, as Gargacharya in the previous instance explains some different things about Krishna and Balaram based on his reading of Jyotish. And we'll consult that 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam because it certainly bears repeating one particular verse and purport. In this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, on the inspiration of Vasudeva, Garga Muni goes to Vrindavan, Mahavan, and gives his audience to Nanda Maharaj, who receives him with a wonderful respect and a deep appreciation. He speaks very nice words of glorification of Garga Muni, who is, after all, the priest of the Yadavas. And in their consultation, Nanda Maharaj wants Garga Muni to perform the reformatory ceremonies for Krishna and Balaram, name-giving ceremony and so forth. But Garga Muni is cautioning Nanda Maharaj that you have to be very careful, because Kamsa knows that I am the priest of the Yadu dynasty, and should he find out that I've come here and done these ceremonies, he'll know for certain that Krishna is here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is here, and he'll send a lot of trouble. So on that basis, on that consultation, Nanda Maharaj says, well, let's do this in secret. Would you be so kind? In my cowshed, please conduct this name-giving ceremony. So in the very humble circumstances, this ceremony is conducted, and Gargamuni gives his reading, both giving certain information about Krishna and Balaram, and at the same time withholding it, so that in the mood of protecting Krishna and Balaram from the intrigues, the vicious behavior of the king of Mathura. So after his appreciation, just before Gargamuni speaks, Nanda Maharaj says this: Tvam hi brahma vidam shrestha samskaram kartumarhasi balayor anayor nrinam janmana brahmano guruhu. My Lord, you are the best of the brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyoti Shastra, the astrological science. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, says in Bhagavad-Gita 4.13, Chatur varnyam mayasristam guna karma vibhagasam. The four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, must be present in society. The Brahmanas are required for the guidance of the whole society. If there is no such institution as Varnashram Dharma, and if human society has no such guide as the Brahmana, human society will be hellish. In Kali Yuga, especially at the present moment, there is no such thing as a real Brahmana, and therefore society is in a chaotic condition. Formerly, there were qualified Brahmanas, but at present, although there are certainly persons who think themselves Brahmanas, they actually have no ability to guide society. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very much eager to reintroduce the Varnashram system into human society, so that those who are bewildered or less intelligent will be able to take guidance from qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana means Vaishnava. After one becomes a Brahmana, the next stage of development in human society is to become a Vaishnava. People in general must be guided to the destination or goal of life, and therefore they must understand Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The whole system of Vedic knowledge is based on this principle, but people have lost the clue. Nate vidu svartagatim hi Vishnum. And they are simply pursuing sense gratification with the risk of gliding down to a lower grade of life, mrityu samsara vartmani. It doesn't matter whether one is born a Brahmana or not. No one is born a Brahmana. Everyone is born a Shudra. But by the guidance of a Brahmana and by samskar, one can become Dvija, twice born, and then gradually become a Brahmana. Brahmanism is not a system meant to create a monopoly for a particular class of men. Everyone should be educated so as to become a Brahmana. At least there must be an opportunity to allow everyone to attain the destination of life, regardless of whether one is born in a Brahmin family, a Kshatriya family, or a Shudra family. One may be guided by a proper Brahmana and be promoted to the highest platform of being a Vaishnava. Thus, the Krishna consciousness movement affords an opportunity to develop the right destiny for human society. Nanda Maharaj took advantage of the opportunity of Garga Muni's presence by requesting him to perform the necessary reformatory activities for his sons to guide them toward the destination of life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Sugadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tang Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha. There's this marvelous culture that we see again and again in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the pages of Bhagavad-Gita, that shows this this appreciation and respect for those who are on the path of Krishna consciousness, which shows respect and indeed taking shelter of the spiritual master, of those who are highly spiritually advanced. To the Western mind, it may seem almost unduly humble. You know, we think, oh, it's bowing down, it's taking the dust from the lotus feet. It's, you know, when the sage comes, they bathe his feet, they take the water upon their heads. But all of these things are actually signs of great culture. They're signs of true advancement in knowledge. And by this process, there's reciprocation. Because a saintly person, when received in that way, he becomes very kind-hearted. In another place, in another purport in this section, Srila Prabhupada writes about how the grihastas are, especially because they're so close to the modes of nature, they have to become Mahatmas by the contact with a Mahatma. It's very important. Otherwise, their position is, as Prabhupada says, precarious. They're in a precarious position because they're having to interact with the modes in so many ways. Family life, going out and making a living, and so forth. So, Krishna consciousness is important for every status of life. Without this process, particularly taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and rendering service, there's really not much hope. In fact, in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami, he's in the chapter about how to discharge devotional service, he begins with these principles: accepting a bona fide spiritual master and rendering service to him. And in Prabhupada's presentation of Nectar of Devotion, he says, at the end of these 20 principles, he says, the most important of these principles are accepting a spiritual master and rendering service. Everything begins from there. And he calls this the beginning, by the way. This is the beginning of devotional service. There are steps. One begins with faith. There are steps. One takes shelter of a spiritual master. One engages in bhajana kriya. Eventually an nritti comes. The steps have to be taken very carefully. I heard once the commentary of Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Maharaj, where he talks about how this is like a house. You know, you're building a house. You start at the bottom. You start at the base. And you make things very firm and strong. And we witnessed the building of a house on the other side of the world in Florida, and every care must be taken along the way. Not that you're thinking, I just want to slap the outside on and see how it looks. No, the internal structure has to be attended to very carefully. It's so important, in fact, that the government, the local governments, they send inspectors to make sure. You know this, Bhima, Krishna, you're a trained engineer, architect, or engineer. You know these particulars are very important. In fact, if the structure is not from the get-go made very sound, then later on there can be problems. So similarly, if we neglect some aspect of devotional service as we practice, we're building a flimsy house. We have to be very careful. And first and foremost is taking this humble position. I don't know who I am. I hear it theoretically. Someone is telling me, but basically I'm in ignorance. Om jnana tamanandasya gyananjana salakaya. I don't know. I don't know up from down. I'm steeped in a civilization that's trying its best to ignore the purpose of life. I've taken on, especially those of us who are unfortunate enough to not have been born in the family of Vaishnavas, I've taken on all of these bad qualities. I'm busy trying to pass them off as good ones because the rest of society is doing that. But now I'm being told that this is all nonsense. My false ego is pricked. How is this possible? But there it is. If you want to actually make progress, you have to take shelter of a spiritual authority. And this means not simply reading the books. This means not simply showing up at the temple, although those are very good things and very important. It means taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. This is our process, as enunciated by Rupa Goswami, as enunciated by Krishna. Tadvidi pranipatine pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. And the next verse, yajgyadva na punarmoham. What's the result of this? What is the result of taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master? You will become in knowledge that all living beings are but part of the Supreme. Or in other words, they are Krishna's. Krishna says in that verse, they are mine. You are mine, Krishna is saying. If you belong to someone, if you are his, what does that mean about you? You're a servant, and your purpose in life is to satisfy that person you belong to. So this is wonderful Krishna. He's coming at us from so many different directions. He's appearing in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, as we heard yesterday, from His Holiness Kadambakanana Maharaj, in so many wonderful ways. He's appearing to us through the words of the bona fide spiritual master. He's appearing to us in the deity form, in the temple, giving us the opportunity to render service, whether it's as a pujari on the altar, as a person who's cleaning the floor very carefully, as a wonderful kirtan leader who's singing the glories of the Lord in a call and response, some of them for 24, 25 years or more, gloriously engaged in a service that touches the heart of everyone. Whether it's on the order of your spiritual master, you're cooking in the kitchen, hot in the summer, cold in the winter. Whether it's on the order of your guru, you're rising early in the morning, taking a shower, oh, so cold, how will I go out there? But doing it anyway. And gradually, by these steps, all of them important, all of them building pieces in that house of devotion, you make progress. And one day you see the thing complete. You see the thing complete. We want to take this process very carefully. For example, we're in the Holy Dham. We're here. There are rules for how we behave in the Dham. We don't mix closely with the opposite sex. We hear Shastra very carefully. We enhance and intensify our sadhana bhakti. There are ways to behave here. There are all kinds of, there's sadachar, there's Vaishnava etiquette. We have to be very, very careful. There's the thing about the material world is that even here, that prodamaya is present. Even here, Maya's ready. She's ready. I once heard that if you want some form of Maya here in Vrindavan, all you have to do is go to the front gate. And, rickshawala will take you right to your intended hellish destination. But if you're in that consciousness, you've never entered the Dham. You've never actually arrived. So don't let my humble entreaty is, don't let this enjoyment spirit arise, even inadvertently. We have to be careful and take caution. We have to be in the mood of Nanda Maharaj receiving Garga Muni. My dear sir, I am so fortunate that you've come here. Let me engage in your service. And what can you do to benefit these two boys? Garga Muni was there because he was concerned about these two boys. He expressed how he was going to behave on the basis of their welfare. Garga Muni knew full well they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the same time, he acted in such a way to protect them and also to protect the sentiments, the devotional mood of the residents of Vrindavan, including Nanda Maharaj. This is such a wonderful Krishna consciousness and instructive. We say wonderful Krishna, and here we're reading about the summation of all of these pastimes of Krishna in 10th canto. But the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna. And just as there is wonderful Krishna, there are wonderful devotees of Krishna who Krishna manifests through. I heard the other day that there was a question being raised that these demons, they seem so determined. When you compare them to devotees, they're so determined. And I was thinking in my mind, oh yeah, what about Dhruva Maharaj? What about Haridas Thakur? Look at their determination, What about Maharaj Parikshit, who was told, Maharaj Parikshit had all of the opportunity at hand to nullify the curse of this Brahmin boy. There are so many avenues he could have taken. He was extremely powerful. How brave, how determined in his Krishna consciousness to simply sit down on the bank of the Ganga, not eating, not drinking, just hearing. And what does Krishna do in reciprocation? He sends Sukadeva Goswami. All the sages are there. They've come from far and wide, hearing of the great king's determination. So that's it's very powerful determination, but it's not a determination for, soft bed, gold, it's not Hiranyakashipu determination. It's not Kamsa determination. It's determination to please the personality of Godhead, even if I have to give my own life. That's Krishna consciousness. And although we may be looking on it with this, with amazement, we should understand that same opportunity, given to Lord Brahma to engage in devotional service is coming down to us in disciplic succession to this very day. We can be engaged in the same way. We can be very careful in our service, very careful, so that we please Krishna and not disturb him. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Good to see you after a long time.
I know, I've been a fossil, I've fossilized over 3 years of pandemic consciousness. And now I've come here and in this association and in your august assembly. And I think that the fossilization is starting to break away, starting to slough off.
Krishna is really showing his love for the Vrindavan inhabitants, the cowherd boys, and everything seems so perfect as to attract us back to Krishna. Still, we hear all these amazing pastimes and depth of relationships, but still we're bewildered by the enjoying spirit. How do we curb that enjoying spirit?
Well, we're here doing that. We're chanting the holy names together. Sankirtan. Well, the other day we were hearing how we were in a class where it was discussed how there's this, people can take the chanting of the holy names as therapy, and if it's therapy, then this Sankirtan yoga is group therapy. It's group therapy, group purification. So Sankirtan is the recommended sacrifice for this age, by which all benefit comes. All benefit comes from this. And of course, as we discussed earlier, we have to be very attentive to the instructions of our spiritual master. Very attentive. Of course, our society, we have so many spiritual masters following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. And at the same time, Srila Prabhupada is ever present. I heard His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami talking about this at his Vyas Puja ceremony. He's saying Prabhupada is everywhere. Prabhupada is present in his instructions. He's present in the instructions through his disciples. He's present in his books. This will help us curb the enjoying spirit. But if we neglect hearing and chanting, if we neglect reading Prabhupada's books, if we're more inclined to dabble in Maya, then it'll be a little harder. The enjoying spirit will stay, and we're at risk of it increasing. So this idea of taking shelter of the bona fide spiritual master is that shelter gets us away from the enjoying spirit, to which we've been addicted for so many lifetimes. We learn how actually following the regulative principles, engaging in service, is pleasure in itself. It's actually pleasurable. It may seem bitter in the beginning, as described in Bhagavad-Gita, in the mode of goodness, these things may seem bitter in the beginning, but ultimately they're the most nectarine. Would anybody else like to add that? How to curb the enjoying spirit? Priti Prabhu. Thank you, Panchagoda Prabhu.
Exactly that, but since you said that Prabhupada is everywhere, there are two things. One little thing that I would like to mention. There was one devotee when Prabhupada left his body. He was put into samadhi, and there was a marble plate and sword, and ultimately there was a stick, a bamboo stick on his head. And we were wondering what is this about, and it was earth, and then in the end, a little mound was formed, and they pulled the stick out. And so he was telling us that he saw that the hole fell in. When the stick came out, the hole fell in. It was to mark Prabhupada's actual situation. It was made by a bamboo rod on Prabhupada's head.
Wow.
So you get that one? Okay. So then the hole fell in, and at night, he was telling me that in his dream the hole opened. It was like a chimney. And he leaned on one side of the chimney, and he saw Prabhupada's body down there. And Prabhupada came in a very wonderful form, in a very translucent form. He leaned on the other side and looked the devotee into the face, and he said, "They think that I'm dead." Now, somebody may say, well, dreams. But on the other side, our Chandramouli Maharaj, who's reading Prabhupada's books very strictly, 2 hours, 3 hours, loud. A couple of years ago, he reported, I found out about it, that he was reading Prabhupada's books, I think it was Krishna book. All of a sudden, the whole atmosphere changed. And he was stopped reading loud, and then Prabhupada's voice came in, and Prabhupada read to him for a couple of minutes. He said it was unreal, it was like a tape recorder. He couldn't believe it. So you see, they think that I'm dead is actually the truth. Prabhupada is here. He proved it in his appearance to Chandramouli Maharaj in this little incident.
Right.
It's very important to understand that if you think Prabhupada is dead, well, the cat is away, the mice will play.
Yeah.
That's the situation. Then people do anything,
Right.
But if you understand Prabhupada's presence, makes a big difference. That's actually important.
So that's another nice way to curb the enjoying spirit. Remember that Srila Prabhupada is present. Yes, Maharaj.
Not until one becomes convinced that really there is no enjoyment in this material world, he will not go back home, back to Godhead.
Yes.
We have to be convinced that there is no real enjoyment here. And when we become convinced, then we'll go back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you, Maharaj. So Maharaj says we have to become convinced that there's no enjoyment in this material world. Then it's possible to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, it's not possible. Anyone else? Anyone have any stories about wonderful Krishna or wonderful devotees? Yes. Right here.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the encouraging class. I always answer something. There are several points that the senior Vaishnavas brought here in regards to how to curb the enjoying spirit. One that I would like to share is, like Bhakti-yoga says, Ekhaki amar nahi paega nahi nam sankirtan. To me,
Could you repeat that? I missed it.
Like Srila Bhakti-yoga Thakur says in his bhajan, O he Vaishnava Thakur, Ekhaki amar nahi paega hari nam sankirtane. तुम्ही कृपा करी श्रद्धा में दिया हो कृष्ण नाम तुम्हें. Ardent faith in the Acharya, begging, praying that on my own I cannot do it.
Yeah.
Either chanting or devotional service. So that strong desire, knowing that I am a failure itself, will help us to curb our desire for enjoyment. And His Divine Grace has set such a wonderful program, no matter where we are in the world, in ISKCON, right from Mangalarti to Shayan Darshan. If we ardently follow the entire program, then we can overcome the desire for enjoyment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yes, can someone pass the microphone back to Mataji there? Pass it along. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your class.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking on this topic of how to curb the enjoying spirit, that simply by remembering who we are, that we are the servants. Jivaraswarapoy, Krishna Nitya Das. So, in any situation, if I just remember, I'm the servant. What is my service? What service can I do? How can I be of service? How can I do better service? Then we want to have the enjoying spirit automatically goes away. We're just thinking, how can I be the servant? And that way, actually, we can have a happy life. We become dear to Krishna. We become dear to all the devotees. And then we don't need to think about our own enjoyment, because Krishna just showers us with transcendental happiness when we have that consciousness.
Thank you. Very nice points. Bring the, bring it forward to Bhima Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I was reflecting on the building foundation, what you mentioned in the class. So, you know, when you are a new devotee, one has to start chanting, etc., follow the process, and then you get first initiation. Now, and you do more surveys, this take part in the washing utensils, washing this, washing the temple room, etc., etc. Nowadays you have to do Bhakti Shastri in order to get the second initiation. So these are all the pillars of the foundation of advancing in Krishna consciousness. So your example can be applied very, very well, because unless the foundation is strong, the chanting is there, the next step will be difficult. It could be very fragile.
Yes.
The whole thing will come down, you know, whatever you've done.
Yeah.
Bang. So I thought that was a nice parallel, but we have to apply in that sense.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you. And there's internal work to be done. You know, we're chanting. Well, why are we chanting? This is for purification. We are supposed to be, you know, you have to take a critical eye. You know, that critical eye is the ability to see is given by the spiritual master, but you have to apply it. You have to look in your heart. Okay, this is still there. I'm still contemplating sense gratification. You know, I'm still harboring a desire to enjoy. How do I root it out? So you work on it. It's an internal process.
And also, in the willing process, you need an architect.
Yes.
So here we need guidance of advanced devotees,
Yeah.
and later on,
Yeah.
selection of a spiritual master who will guide you towards the goal of life.
Right.
So we need architects,
Yes.
assistants, and so on.
And the plans are there. The plans are there in the books. Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. I wanted to share one other thing here. In my digital research, it's something I should have come across a long time ago. There's this wonderful list. It's about 145 items. It was compiled by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And it's called Krishna Is. You familiar with that? It's very nice. So what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did was all of these different attributes of Krishna. He made observations that these attributes can be found in this place in 10th canto, this place in 10th canto, this place in 10th canto. There's 145 different ones. For example, Krishna is possessed of an unlimited intellect. Reference, 84th chapter of 10th canto, verse 22. Krishna is inaccessible to sensuous knowledge. 16th chapter of 10th canto, text 46. So it's a real nice meditation, especially if you want to think about wonderful Krishna and these different attributes. You can go to this, get this. It'd be nice to print it out and share it. It's in the Veda base. I don't know if it's been printed. It'd be a nice printing. It's called Krishna Is. The backstory, as I understand, is that there was one Professor Sanyal. Professor Sanyal was a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was busy working on a 2-volume book about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes. He completed the first volume, and in that volume, this was included. However, shortly thereafter, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur passed away, and unfortunately, Professor Sanyal got involved in the divisive party politics that took place at the time, and he never completed his second work, his second volume. In fact, he passed away also. But this is really nice. It's called Krishna. If you go to writings of past acharyas, writings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you'll find Krishna Is. It's a really nice meditation. And it'll have you hop, skipping, and jumping all over 10th canto in ecstasy. Krishna is. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. Can someone pass the microphone back to Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You said we are brought up in a society that tries really hard to deny the purpose of life.
Yes.
So we see that with our Sankirtan movement, we distribute books, we go out on the streets, but it seems like we are trying to sort of cover the damage, because first people learn the wrong thing, and then we need to re-educate that. So I was wondering, is it also our job to change that structure which denies the purpose of life? Do we need to take away that root also with our preaching work?
By book distribution and Harinam, by giving people a chance to associate with devotees in temples or in farm communities and so forth, that'll take place. Yeah, that paradigm has to be utterly replaced. But how to do that? That's our mission. But Prabhupada talked about how his mission was only 50% fulfilled. He emphasized varnashram, introducing varnashram towards the end of his manifest pastimes. He said how important it was. Why is that? Why do you think that is? It's because not everybody's going to become a brahmana. Not everybody's even going to become particularly involved in Krishna consciousness. But the structure of the general society is so damaging right now. It's so, and it's becoming more and more clear how hell-bent it is, that without at least giving this general structure, this general organizing principle, so that people can live relatively peacefully, there's no hope for human civilization. Human civilization doesn't exist. It's just animal life, polished though it may be, you know? So yeah, it's a very big task. We're small cogs in a large machine, but we have to do our part. The devotees that are chanting here 24 hours a day are doing their part. The devotees that are going out on books distribution are doing what they can do, you know? The devotees that are serving the deity so nicely in the temple and completely saturating the hearts of the devotees who are seeing their devotion and seeing the beauty of the deities with love and appreciation, so they can't help but go out the door and say, come on, you have to see this. You have to see my Lord. They're doing their part. And so on. Yeah, we want to see the whole world change. We want to see a revolution in the misdirected society. Is that all right? A few more questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. How can enjoyment manifest when we perform devotional service?
How can it manifest?
Can you give some example maybe about enjoyment of devotional service?
Oh, well, sit down and honor a plate of prasadam. How can you avoid feeling ecstatic? How can you deny your taste buds? Krishna consciousness isn't meant to be some sort of sterile Mayavad exercise in denying the senses. We don't go and sit down and take the gulab jamans and the sweet rice and the khichdi and the chapatis and mix it all together real quick and, eat it holding our nose so we don't possibly taste. No. Krishna consciousness is really a relishable process. Prabhupada once said famously that let them have, sumptuous Krishna prasadam. They've given up so much. But what to speak of that, just coming to the artik and seeing the beautiful deities. Are you not gratified? Are you not filled with happiness? Seeing a person who's come to the temple for the first time shaved up, wearing Vaishnava tilak, are you not ready to roll on the ground in ecstasy? It's wonderful. Krishna's wonderful. And that wonder is a source of great happiness. There was some other?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Haribol!
Haribol. Okay. Suppose a guru loves his disciple very much. So if the disciple comes within his aura, can he feel it and locate him?
I'm not sure I understand. If the disciple comes within the aura of the guru?
The guru can feel it and can locate where he is.
Our connection with the spiritual master is Vani and Vapu. The spiritual master, he is his form. He comes before us as a devotee of the Lord. And also his Vani, or her Vani, the instruction. That's how we associate. Aura, I don't know so much.
I'm so sorry, I think it's a big question.
That's okay. But if you want to associate with a spiritual master, Krishna gives the way to do that in the Bhagavad-Gita very clearly. You associate by bowing down to the spiritual master, by accepting instructions, by service. That's the connection with the spiritual master.
Actually, Prabhuji, I heard from others that is possible.
Okay.
And I heard from others.
We will leave that to the others then.
Okay, and they also told me that some of them even realized it, felt it.
What is that?
I heard that some of the gurus even realized it, means felt it.
I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another question or comment? Yes. Pass the microphone back, please. Thank you. Hare Krishna. You have to turn it on.
Thank you, wonderful class. I wasn't feeling well, but I got here today, and I'm glad I did. Just a few things to say that about what Vimal Krishna Das was saying, that we need architecture. When I came to Krishna consciousness about 20 years ago, I was actually looking for these architectures. Who can help me to understand Krishna consciousness? And I have been coming since the 70s. I have met Prabhupada. But I haven't actually come...
Wait, just wait a moment. Let the bell finish, and then you can continue. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Okay.
So I was looking for someone who can help me in how to come to Krishna consciousness. So I had to be selective and also discriminate, like who can really help me and how can I get this not. So I had a good friend. She actually broke, as I said, I came in 70s in Barrow Place when Prabhupada came in London. I met him and my father was a good friend of his. But I wasn't finding, it took me a long time to find the association, so sometimes it takes a long time. And also the pressure from the family and friends, because I was the only one coming in for Krishna consciousness. My brothers and sisters, they never were interested. They were interested in material gaining. And they did very well. They're very successful in their education and everything. Where I went the other way, I just was looking for Krishna, And what I was trying to say is, to progress in KC, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But it does happen, you get the taste. Like you said, it's bitter at the beginning. Getting up early in the morning, I still find that. But, I push myself to do it. And I have a husband who comes to Mangalarati every day. His name is George. And he's pushing me, and I get quite angry. I'm saying, why? You get up, I don't sleep well. But now, as I'm doing, I'm finding the taste is there.
Nice.
It's wonderful.
Nice.
And also, I try to help my family,
Good.
my daughters, and I tell them about Krishna consciousness. And Govardhana, I'm doing book distribution with her in the evenings, and she's really inspiring me. She's wonderful.
So yeah, some devotees, you'll see that. That's another thing that's amazing about Krishna consciousness. Some devotees, they come and they join, and they're just like take off like a rocket. Everything that we would consider an austerity, it's like, yay! I can't wait. You can sense they're picking up where they left off from a previous life, and some of us, we really got to slug it out at first, But the slugging it out is worth it. It's worth it. And we get encouragement in so many ways. It's not something you can do alone. We need each other. I constantly meditate on this wonderful excerpt from Bhakti Churu Swami's book, The Ocean of Nectar, where Bhakti Churu Swami is talking with Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada shares something which Bhakti Churu Swami expressed in his book, seemed like the most secretive, very confidential. Prabhupada said that Maya is Krishna's external potency. Maya-yakshena prakriti suyate sutratram. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to overcome. So Maya is Krishna's external potency. But the association of devotees is Krishna's internal potency. The association of devotees is Krishna's internal potency. And Bhakti Churu Swami he asked, but Srila Prabhupada, what if I'm in a situation where I don't have devotee association? And Prabhupada said, you meditate on their instructions, and that way you will associate. So that's why we're a society. That's why Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so that we could have a contact with Krishna's internal potency via all of you. It's wonderful, wonderful Krishna, wonderful devotees. In the back, my daughter Sharanagati.
Another wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness, since we're talking about material and spiritual enjoyment, is that when you become a devotee or decide to become a devotee, we have these things that we enjoy materially. Say we like to do art or music or dancing or whatever it is. But if you just add Krishna, then it's spiritual enjoyment. So if you turn your artwork that it's always about Krishna, then it's spiritual enjoyment. So it's not even like we have to give everything up.
Right.
It's just adding Krishna to everything.
Yes. And the spiritual master sees this person can do this person can do that. Sometimes, though, you have to give things up. Sometimes Krishna makes that arrangement, that through the spiritual master, he wants to test your mettle. What is your determination? You may want this, but Guru says, no, not this. Are you going to surrender? Or are you going to say, no, I'd rather do what I want to do? Part of making advancement in Krishna consciousness, a very important part, is saying, how did Lord Jesus Christ say it? Not my will, but thy will be done. Not my will, but thy will be done. So that's also important. But Krishna consciousness is so nice. We have our natures, we have our interests, and you can engage them in Krishna service, for sure. Anything else? I think we're past time. The temple president has signaled we're past time. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to wonderful Krishna. All glories to the wonderful devotees of Krishna.